when it opens this year and starts building incrementally, we have orders today that need to be built.
Congressional delegation switching to conventional fuel. What do you know about where prices are going, so consumers can get an idea?
Yeah, well, members of Congress are not allowed to speculate in stocks, and I don't think any of us are willing to speculate in commodities as well. But the thing that we're all very concerned about is everything in Ukraine, and it is an unavoidable side effect of everything that's happened with Russia and the response that the free world is taking there. That there is going to be a price to pay at the pump as we shut off Russian exports of oil. And that is something that I think everyone is going to think about as they look at the gas pump. But I think that they also maybe are a little bit proud of the United States, that that's the sort of thing we're willing to do to support the free world.
I would just add to that the United States, up prior to 10 years ago, we were a net energy importer in terms of fossil energy. Over the last 10 years, we've become a net energy exporter, which has coupled U.S. domestic energy markets to international markets to a degree that it wasn't before. So when we stop buying Russian oil, that's about 8% of U.S. crude oil imports. So that doesn't have a huge impact on markets, but we're still exporting our energy overseas. And so the European countries that are much more tightly bound to Russian oil are going to see volatility, and it's a global commodity. So the way that we lower prices ultimately is to build things like this. But in the near term, the answer to your question depends on how long Putin stays crazy before we get some settlement in the market, and that's a hard thing to predict.
This might be repetitive, but I think you said there's like $5 billion in the recent infrastructure bill for school buses specifically. Is it in the bill that's already passed, and how would that money be used?
The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was signed into law in November and included $5 billion for electric vehicle infrastructure. That's not the same funding as the funding for the charging terminals that will be in every community in this country, and then also along the interstate highway.
So what is electric vehicle infrastructure?
That's this. That's this, to incentivize school districts and the manufacturing, domestic manufacturing of great benefits like electric school buses. The electric vehicle charging station infrastructure is different because, as we know, for consumers who have already purchased electric vehicles, there's only certain communities that have widespread charging infrastructure. We want to make sure every community has that infrastructure so that consumers truly have a choice and an incentive to switch to electric vehicles. And then also along the interstate highway system, we know that part of consumers, I wouldn't say apprehension, consumers' awareness when they select electric vehicles is they will need to charge up if they're trying to travel long distances. As we are able to invest in the installation of charging stations along the interstate highway system, then those electric vehicle owners will be delighted to take the nice long road trips across our beautiful landscape to see the wondrous country of the United States of America.
Does that bill include the cars as well? I know you mentioned school buses.
So as you know, we had initially conceptualized the bipartisan infrastructure law to travel alongside legislatively with a larger package that included the tax incentives for consumers to purchase electric vehicles. The House passed that legislation. It was called the Build Back Better Act when we passed it, but it has not advanced in the Senate. We obviously know that the senators are having some conversations right now, and whatever deal they negotiate, it will likely return back to the House under a different name, hopefully in the next several months.
Did you say that there's some sort of incentive for like school bus companies to, set up charging infrastructure? Because that's very expensive.
What I said was
in the course of the whole press conference.
Right. What I was talking about with the charging infrastructure is for consumers to be able to, wherever they live, throughout Illinois, throughout the country, if they have an electric vehicle, to be able to find a nearby charging station for their vehicle. That is different than some kind